Hey there, Wendy here with Jazzydoodledesigns, and today I'm going to be coloring in the garden gnomes. Now, Janet Watts was the first to comment, and she wanted to see this picture, and I've chosen out of her selection to use the Color pencils. So I have the 120 set from Color. Sorry about the glare. And, okay, so for this picture, it would, it's tempting to do the whole red mushroom. And I am going to do probably this bigger one with some reds and oranges and yellows. But we're going to veer off into some other colors. And this is just going to be a bright, colorful page. Because, these are just fun images. So why not make them fun? So I thought about veering off ridiculously, like, making them blue and turquoise and purple. And I just, I couldn't really get it to work in my mind. So grab your pencils and join me, and let's have a little fun, shall we? Hey guys, let's get started, shall we? How are you guys? I'm super excited to be doing this page. I love me some gnomes, and these are adorable. So Janet, thank you so much for picking this page. And this must be a new record because I am already making mistakes. So don't do as I do. Pay attention. Don't color over the hat. Oh, y'all. But, I really like how these Color pencils performed on this paper. I haven't used these pencils a whole lot. I've used them, I think I've used them in the Disney book. And I didn't love them. I mean, they didn't just jump out at me as being great pencils, but to be honest, I really enjoyed using them on this page, so now I kind of see why people enjoy them. But anyway, starting off, I just put down some light layers and kind of map out my colors this way, and then I go back in and do another couple of layers to build up the saturation. I am not worried at all about going over those little dots. I am not gonna try and color around them, though you could. You'd probably get brighter white results if you did it that way. But either way, I don't really care. I will tell you, spoiler alert, I was also an idiot and somehow managed to delete the last frame of footage, or not frame, but little segment of footage where I put the little white dots and all the white on. I did film it all because even though it's just adding the white, I just think it's important as a part of the process. But somehow I managed to delete it and it's just gone. So I will kind of walk you through at the end of what I do. But essentially, I'm just coloring over everything right now and then adding the white back. But you could leave those areas, uncolored, and you would get brighter white results at the end. So this page is going to be really bright, you guys. Apologies, Ellie says hello. Which she always has to do, right? Because she loves you guys too. She thinks of you as her friends. But anyway, no, the neighbors are having, I don't know, the street workers are out cleaning the streets or doing something on the street. And so she feels the need to let me know, hey, Mom, there's like some people outside. But Now, you saw on the first mushroom, I went in dark to light. Here, I decided I wanted to map out kind of where that highlight was or where I wanted the lightest part so that I didn't lose it. And so here I work light to dark. But once again, I'm just doing a light layer to kind of map it all out. That way I can erase if I need to, or I can change placement. So, you know, I get that question a fair amount, like, do you color light to dark or dark to light? Here's a really good example of me doing both, because it really does depend for me. And that's probably not a very helpful answer to you, but I do try and explain why. Normally, in general, I would say I probably do more dark to light, just simply because once you lay down a light color and you go over it with a dark, you will never get that true dark. So I do feel like, you know, putting down your darks can be important, because I do like a nice contrast between dark and light. Now, on this page, let's face it, it's all saturated colors and it's all bright and it's all fun, but that's the kind of page this is. So here I'm going back in with my second layer. And I'm just going to kind of repeat the process until I get the saturation that I want. Now, you could go in, I guess, and try and burnish it through all the way. That generally doesn't work as well for me because I feel like I don't get as good at blends. But it's whatever works for you. Now, I will tell you, don't forget to color. See the little hearts in the windows? I'm assuming those are, you know, like in the little shutters. I'm assuming those are windows, so I had to go back in and color that area with these pencils. So I would just do it now. Have the benefit of hindsight and do it now while you got all the pencils out. But is it getting nice where you live? We're really starting to see signs of, you know, full spring. And, you know, in Colorado, the weather changes all the time. So if you don't like the weather, just wait 15 minutes is kind of the call, because we do get a variety. And it can really go from, you know, a high of 29 and then the next day be a high of 60. So it's kind of crazy. But this last week has been in the low 60s. It's just been absolutely beautiful, with the exception of, was it Saturday, I think? We had like 50-mile-an-hour winds. It was like 35 to 45 sustained with gusts up to 70. It was crazy, just absolutely crazy. Enough that little Ellie, who never sleeps under the covers, she likes to sleep right between us like she's a little human. I mean, once in a while I'll pull the blanket up if it's cold out or something, but she's not she runs a little hot in general, even though she's small. But anyway, I think the wind really freaked her out, because that night we went to bed and she burrowed under the covers all the way down to her feet and curled up into a ball and slept there for the majority of the night. And she has never done that. And she's 2.5 years old now. So it was very unusual. And I just think it was because that wind was just ripping and it howled. And, you know, that must hurt their ears when it's that loud for us. I can't imagine having their hearing. Like, it's so keen. What really freaks me out is, can you imagine having their sense of smell? Like, y'all, we smell stuff and we're like, oh, that smells bad or that smells good, even if it's good. Like imagine, when you're sitting there and you meet somebody and they have too much perfume on. Can you imagine what that's like for a dog? Okay, so Random Topics by Wendy, I guess is the day. Now, I really wasn't sure what to do with that little strip between the underside of the mushroom and the mushroom right there. I probably should have done it dark. In the end, I keep it white. I don't know if that's a good thing or not. So you make that call. I understand why the artist has to depict the line, but I don't know. I couldn't reconcile it in my brain, like what to do. So I left it for the very end, and then at the end, the entire picture was colored except for that. So I was like, well, okay, I'll just leave it that way. So, yeah, I got nothing. But now I wanted all of these mushrooms to be a little bit different. But to me, these two are kind of cropping out of the top. So I wanted them to be in more familiar, color family. Like I didn't want a blue mushroom popping out off the top just because it's literally growing from the other one. So I made this one the same kind of colors, but added more pink. And then the back one added even more of that purplish pink. But this one, just a hint of that purple pink. I just feel like it adds a nice variety without making it too jarring. Now, I don't think you can go wrong with pages like these. They're whimsical, they're fun. Mushrooms don't have gnomes, living in them. So I don't think that there's necessarily a right or wrong way to color these pages. I find irony that I'm like, well, that's not realistic that a blue mushroom would pop out of there. When it's not really realistic that gnomes would be living in them. But, I'm just telling you my thought processes. It's kind of scary, isn't it? Yeah. So that being said, that was kind of my design for this, is just to really have fun. So what else has been happening? Are you starting to plant a garden? I've seen people, depending on where they live, are starting to plant their garden. My nail lady's trying to get me to plant pumpkins. She said that she's got the seeds for like those pumpkins that grow really big. So she's like, oh, your grandson needs a big pumpkin. She's like, figure out a place where you can grow one. It'll be fun. So I don't know. I'll give a little thought to that, I guess. I'm pretty sure I have some time. And I think pumpkins grow pretty easily. I don't really have a green thumb. I like plants, and over the years, my husband kind of built a little box thing in our backyard. It wasn't really a box. It was still the dirt in the ground, but put a border around it, I guess, and like a designated area. But, what happens is I get really excited in the spring and I plant stuff, and then it becomes a chore. It's like, okay, did it get watered? And is it getting enough water? Because we have some underground water sprinkler system type of thing, but it doesn't always, does it reach every place? And over the years, there was always like one plant that wasn't getting enough water. And then I planted strawberries and the birds would get them, and then I would get this is going to shock you, but I would get impatient about them not growing quick enough. And I lose a little bit of interest, and then the weeds start growing up, and it's like, I don't want to go out and weed. It's hot out. it's July now, and I don't know. It's just not my bag, baby. But I love I love the fruits of the labor, and there is something tremendously satisfying when it does turn out. I do pretty well with like zucchini. Plus, you know, inevitably you always forget a zucchini and you end up with that one great big zucchini bat that's in your garden. I'm okay with that because I just shred it and I make zucchini bread. So zucchini works pretty well for me because they're really hard to kill, don't need a ton of water. They'll grow through pretty much anything. They're very prolific. They're like the bunnies of the garden world. And so that being said, for years and years, Lonnie and I had a tomato growing contest, and I would always buy the cherry tomatoes, so I'd always win because cherry tomatoes always blossom first. But then he got wise to my schemes, and so then he started buying early girls. And so for a few years we had the battle of the tomatoes, but neither one of us is huge tomato fans. Like, we eat it like in spaghetti sauce or you know, randomly on a sandwich, but to like buy a tomato just for our own consumption, you know, we're just, I don't know. It isn't our favorite, so to have a whole, you know, plant is a little overkill. So, although I have thought about growing them to can like tomato sauce, which would be fantastic because I do about every 3 years I go on a big canning thing, and I think this year's the year that I'm kind of due. My husband loves green beans, and so I usually can a ridiculous amount, and then I don't can for a few years because it's a lot of work. But it's also a really good way to preserve food. So, you know, it's a labor of love. I've canned almost everything back in the day. I stick very much to recipes in the ball book, and I work with my extension office to create a few recipes of my own to have them approved to figure out, you know, you have to have a certain amount of, you know, your acid alkaline balances, need, you know, to know how long to process things. And I'm at altitude. I'm at 5,500 feet above sea level. So you also have to adjust for that because most recipes are based on sea level. So you definitely have to make some adjustments. But I have canned meats, I have canned stews, I have canned vegetables, jellies, jams, potatoes, beans. I have canned all kinds of stuff. And like I said, it's really good to have on hand. I have made like some bean soup and vegetable beef soup, salsas, tomato sauce. I've done it all over the years. Now, in the last 10 years, I've really kind of scaled back, and, you know, because I don't have the kids and stuff here anymore. So it's just my husband and I. So I definitely do the green beans. But like I said, I think it's 2 bushels of green beans that I do at a time. That's a lot of snapping of green beans, if you know what I mean. Like, that's the hardest part. So in years past, I've had other hands. I could make my kids do it or bring my mom over or that kind of stuff. But, you know, if I did it this year, it'd probably just be me. So I don't know, I might have to scale back and not do as many and do it more often. But everything gets harder as you get older, doesn't it? I'm not a fan. Getting old is not for the faint of heart. Not that I'm old, but you know what I mean. I can't imagine the changes that I have felt in my 50s. I can't imagine my 70s. But anyway, I'm like blathering on about random stuff. But this is a color and chat, so chat we shall. So let's see, what else? So this last weekend, my mom came over and we had a girls' night, and she spent the night. We do a sleepover. When she had her surgery a while back, she spent the night, and we just had a really good time given the circumstances. So we decided to do it when she was feeling a little better. So my husband was supposed to be on a vacation this week, and weather and whatnot kind of messed up his plans, so he ended up being home, but he left us to our own devices, and we played cards. We watched the Top Gun movie Maverick. Have you all seen that? I actually enjoyed it. Usually the sequels to movies are not, well, they're usually terrible. But this one was pretty good, and the movie kind of hit the spot. It was light. It was, I mean, I don't know if light's the word. It's not exactly, most chick flick kind of thing. But at the same time, it was well done, and I enjoyed it. But, and Tom Cruise, like, what kind of water is he drinking that he's hardly changed at all? I mean, Val Kilmer changed quite a bit. And the lady that was in the movie isn't even the same lady, I don't think. But, I mean, it was supposed to be the same lady, but I don't think it was the same actress, if that makes sense. But anyway, so we played cards. We did a little bit of coloring we've been coloring in a page. We started at Christmas time, and it is in Teresa Goodridges Christmas Charm. So I actually have a whip. It's shocking. I have one. But we've been working on that slowly, and so we'll see. I think the next session that we do, I should be able to finish it. We don't color for long periods of time. I will tell you, though, my mom is my target audience, right? But, one of the things she struggles with is her hands aren't as steady as they used to be. Her eyes aren't as good as they used to be. And shocking, she's a little impatient, too. That being said, she's way more patient than I am, but she doesn't have the hand strength to do 3 or 4 layers of coloring, because she can only color in shorter periods of time. What we're finding is that she really prefers to work with other mediums other than colored pencil, because colored pencil is pretty slow, and she's not heavy-handed by nature. And so to get the saturation levels that she enjoys, I had her play with my new Artix pencil, or Wendy, spit it out. I had her play with the new Artix acrylic markers. The ones that I just got. And she really enjoyed that. And I think that was a good win for her, because then she could lay down the color, and then she could do detail with a colored pencil. But she didn't have to feel like she wasn't making progress. And, like I said, because of her limited energy level, she just needs a faster medium. And so I think that's really going to work out for her. So I bought the 260 sets of Arctics, and there was quite a few. I think I ended up with 85 total independent colors, and the other, what would that be, 35 colors were duplicates. So I gave her those markers, and then I had some duplicate Tombow markers from where I had bought a kit that had some markers that were in another set. And so I gave her my Tombows, I gave her the Arctics duplicates, and if she really likes them and she needs more colors, we'll buy her another set of acrylic markers. So, but I thought I would pass that along to y'all because, we're all in a different place with our journey, and I love colored pencils and I enjoy working with them, but I also enjoy the speed of other mediums, especially in basing. Now, for a page like this one, colored pencils works fine for me, but, we're all a little bit different. So my mom would really struggle. You see that I usually put 2 layers down or 3, and the third layer I'm burnishing and, bearing down a little bit to get that rich saturation that you see. And you can even still see the white dots on my page. And I thought about using a blender pen at the end. In the end, I thought it was cute enough as is, and I didn't do it. But that is one step that you could take if you wanted to, remove the white dots. Now here in the sunflower, I decided this page, everything that I colored has more than one color. And so I kind of wanted something just a little different than your typical sunflower where it's yellow with the brown center. And I really like how these turned out. Now for these flicking motions, don't overthink it. Slap some color in the center of them and move to your next color. Do the same thing. So like with that, so I'm doing the exact same thing with this orange as I did with that, what was that color? Magenta. I am just randomly adding a little bit of color in like a stripy pattern, like the veins would be. And I'm just adding it from the center. I want to leave those tips white. I don't want to bring the color out that far. Now, this is the yellow orange, or I don't have the colors yet when I'm voicing over, so I apologize. But this is the deeper of the 2 yellows that I use, and I'm just adding it. I'm not covering the entire petal. I'm just coloring kind of partially, if that makes sense, leaving a little bit of space there. Now here with this lighter yellow, now I'm kind of going over everything. My goal here is not to blend those stripy colors out, but just to do a light, fill in the white paper. Now, at the very end of the video, I will go in with my white acrylic marker, like the Posca. I'm going to use a different brand called Flymax, and I bought these as, I think, a 6-pack on Amazon, and they actually work really well, or at least they have so far. But I'm going to put that on the very tippy tips. So I'm not super worried if there's random little white, because I kind of like that look. Now I go around the edge here with that magenta again, and this, I put this color on the edge. Now I'm going in and kind of burnishing it all at once right now. So I'm not doing light layers. I'm just kind of going in, kind of going for it. Now here I am with that yellow orange again. I'm kind of roughly going over everything. I'm not super concerned if there's a little less or a little more of that color. Now here I just go in right at the little base of each petal and just adding a little bit of this magenta. Now because I have the yellow down, it actually creates more of an orange look. And then I go in with the actual orange. And when I'm putting in the colors and stuff, I'll be zooming in. So hopefully, as you're watching this, it's actually all zoomed in. But anyway, and then just kind of blending that out just a touch. If I missed anything with that light yellow. And there, right at the tips, as it meets the flower, I decided I wanted a little more of the richness that this yellow-orange brings, as opposed to the other yellow. I don't know if you can see the difference, but I think it adds a lot. I just think it made it kind of come to life a little bit. But I'm more drawn to warm colors than I am to cool colors. I love blue and purple. I think they're fantastic. But in general, I do tend to be a warm girl, a warm color girl. But anyway, now I'm back to this cooler yellow, but I'm just kind of burnishing everything down. Okay, so back to my mom and I's weekend. We had a really good time, and we colored, we cooked, we watched a movie, we played a lot of cards. Generally, my mom absolutely loves to play games. It's what she loves to do. And so we did play quite a bit of cards. We played Rummy, and then we were going to play Canasta, but we had some... I couldn't find... When we play Canasta, we play with 4 decks, and I couldn't find 4 decks of cards. You can play it with 2, but then you got to shuffle more. And so in the end, we skipped the Canasta this time. But all in all, it was just a really fun weekend. And by the end, she was pretty pooped. So we took her home. And yeah, so, you know, I think it's important we do these things when we can. And I know it kind of feels funny, you know, here I am in my 50s and my mom's in her 70s and we had a sleepover, but my house is a split level. When you walk in, you have to go up or down, and my mom really, really struggles with the stairs, and so it's nice if we can divide those over 2 days. Now, I really like the look of this with that white, which is what made me go back at the end and add in the white. So you could save yourself the trouble and not color all over it right now if you wanted to. But come on, that would be way too easy. I have to do it the Jazzydoodledesigns way, which is a little more difficult. Just kidding. No, but to me, I find it easier to do it this way. Now, depending on how important it is that the white is white, then that determines whether or not I leave it white to begin with. If I need it to be a pure white, then you wouldn't want to do it this way. But because I'm just adding white to kind of highlight, and it really doesn't matter if it's white or if it's kind of just brighter than the yellow, excuse me, then I find this to be the easier method. Trying to leave white can be very difficult. In fact, when I try to do it, it's often a fail. So, but yeah, I'm just layering it up, getting the saturation level that I'm looking for. But look at those petals on the left-hand side versus the flower on the right-hand side. You can see the vibrancy that this little step right here using this orange-yellow brings out, right? It just really adds a richness to it. So it's essentially the same kind of steps that I used before. I thought about making them different. I thought about making one of them yellow and one of them, you know, a different color. But in the end, I like using these colors. And there I'm just filling in, there's some little gaps where the sky's kind of peeking through in between the petals. So that's what I'm doing here. Just filling in those little, you know, the spots I missed. Shocking, I know. But I'm just kind of working my way down the page. Now, I wanted the back, the main trunk of this mushroom to be a little bit more of a neutral color, because it's a big chunk of this page, right? And we have a riot of color going on already. So the only thing that I will say is that in the end, I don't like that the two little hearts where the window is peeking, where the trunk peeks through those heart windows in the center image, because I colored his hand essentially the same color, it kind of looks like he has three hands on that one side. But at the time, I didn't notice it until I was pretty much all done coloring. And I was like, well, it is what it is. Now here, I am just taking colors that I've already used and kind of incorporating them lightly, ever so lightly, in this mushroom to where that flesh color isn't really like a new color, right? I'm just using existing colors. So I'm adding a little bit of orange. I'm adding a little of the yellow orange. I'm adding that flesh color. These are all colors that are used in the picture themselves. When you do that little trick, you'll see, like when you look at that mushroom trunk, it does not read orange, right? And yet you see me putting orange there. And it doesn't really read yellow. It kind of does, I guess. It's like a lemon yellow orange. That doesn't even make any sense. But you get what I'm saying, right? You end up with kind of that little hodgepodge of color. But because it has color from existing colors that I've already used on the page, to me it looks more cohesive. Now, that's just my personal opinion. You might disagree, and I'm fine with that. We can definitely disagree and still be friends. But this is just, I try and tell you the workings of my mind, because sometimes I watch people color and I'm thinking, why are you doing that? Like, why are you using that color? Or why don't you use this color or whatever. So whenever I can tell you the method of my madness, my goal is that you can then take this to your own pictures that you're coloring when you're not doing a color along, and you can incorporate that into another picture, because I want to, if you like this style. You might not like this style. You might be just listening to me chat in the background while you vacuum. And that's okay. I'm here for all the things. But that's why I do this. And if you notice the flowers, even though when you look at this page, they kind of read more yellow, they have the exact same colors as that mushroom head in the top left. Exact same colors. The only color it doesn't have is it doesn't have the red-orange color. It has orange, it has the yellow-orange, it has the light yellow, and it has that magenta color. So now as I work my way down the page, because I'm going to have a blue mushroom, I wanted the sky to be lighter, which is kind of natural anyway. If you look at the sky, if you go outside right now and you look at the sky on the horizon, it looks darker up higher. And as you work your way down, it gets lighter. So that's kind of a natural way. But I also had a conscious decision to make it lighter because my mushroom is going to be this blue turquoise color on the right hand side. Spoiler, in case you didn't see the finished product. But I didn't want that blue to be competing with it. So I wanted it to be significantly lighter. Now, as I put my teal into my these little wood frames, I didn't want them to be all one color, so I'm adding in a little bit of green. Now, I recommend that you use the lighter green. I just used probably the one called light green. I would recommend you use the apple green color. It'll make it pop out a little bit more, and I think I do later on add a little bit of that. But I just like how, to me, it looks more whimsical to have not all one color. Now there I'm just darkening the edges on the outside and around the frame of the heart. And then I go in with, I decided on a gray for the area behind them. You know, inside we probably couldn't see, so it'd be kind of in shadow. But I felt like the gray was a nice neutral to use that didn't take away from the vibrancy of this page. And that's what I used on the top as well. Now, what's funny is these are not how I would color flowers if I was coloring in, say, Hannah Carlson's book. Generally speaking, to me, these are very cartoonish greens, right? But they really, to me, go with the whimsy of this page. So I thought it'd be interesting, when I was working in my Africa book, I gave you guys a little background, and we talked about Africa in general. And so I thought it'd be kind of fun to do that, and let's talk about some gnomes. So some of the history, there's a lot of different mythologies that they come from. Now, the article I'm reading right now is on the Washington Post, and I don't want to get copyrighted, so I'm not going to read the whole thing. but I'm just going to read little sentences here and there. So, the Egyptians had the god Bes and brownies, and there's house spirits in British and Scottish folklore, and small stone figures started appearing in Italian gardens during the Renaissance. So, pretty old. The garden gnomes in the United States and England, they say, maybe trace back to Germany's Black Forest region in the early 19th century. If y'all have ever been to that region, it's absolutely gorgeous. I lived in Munich, Germany for a while and traveled up there, and it's just so beautiful. So they were carved out of wood. And then in the mid-19th century, they started casting them in terracotta and porcelain. Generally, they were displayed inside the home as works of art. They oftentimes have the trademark red hat and boots and shirts, and they were kind of in lazy poses. So Sir Charles Isham gets credit for bringing dwarves into Britain. So this was during the 1840s, and he decorated his garden with them. He was extremely eccentric, it said. He was a pro-socialist, vegetarian teetotaler who believes dwarfs and little folk are real, and it was not a great way to establish their legitimacy. Oh, this is kind of a fun fact. So, there was a 62-acre estate on the Henley-on-Thames Friar Park region, and it was dotted with German garden gnomes and open to the public. Well, then it was later purchased by George Harrison of the Beatles, and in the 70s, and he unearthed a few of the original gnomes, and he posed with them on his cover of his album, All Things Must Pass. Okay, so now we can all pause and Google to see that picture, because now I want to know. But they were featured at, in 1912, gnomes were featured at the Royal International Horticulture Exhibition, forerunner of the Chelsea Flower Show. So back in the day, it was kind of posh to have a gnome. But then they started to fall out of favor during the 2 World Wars, when the British spurned everything related to Germany. Then they came back in the 50s and 60s and were mass-produced, and they were, you know, cheaper made, and so then they really... okay, so on screen, the reason I'm erasing was not necessarily that there was a mistake. I just decided to put a little bit lighter, like pinkish peach there, so that my highlight was a little brighter. That's all. So now they're not really suited for the upper class gardens anymore. But then Disney brought out the Snow Whites and the 7 Dwarfs, and it looks like people really love them. So their popularity skyrocketed in 1976 when Will Hygen's book Gnomes featured charming illustrations by Ken Pratt Blvd. I am sure I am trashing his name. You know I do that, right? If you've never been on the channel, go watch a few. I can wreck anybody's name. Just ask Miss Christine. We're good friends, and I still trash her name. Anyway, but he had this book that just had a lot of whimsical, you know, drawings and whatnots. And then In the 80s, oh, who knew? There was topless female gnomes and farting gnomes began to show up on the lawns. And it was all downhill from there, they say. Now it's possible to find gnomes mooning, sitting on the toilet, and vomiting rainbows. Oh my goodness. Oh, it's crazy. So, eventually the Chelsea Flower Show finally warmed up to them, allowing gnomes decorated by Elton John and Judi Dench to grace the gardens in 2013. There was even a giant-sized gnome on display. So if you're looking to add a gnome, then of course there's some links. Because no story can be told without a link to, you know, get some affiliate money. But I thought that was kind of interesting. It also says, now this is a different article, this is called Beyond the Pointy Hat, the Hidden Meanings of Garden Gnomes. Let's see, let me click into that one. That sounds interesting. Because I don't think you need me to tell you what's going on screen. They can represent good luck, protection, nature, fertility, and abundance. Adding a garden gnome to your outdoor space can serve as a reminder of the importance of these values and the role we play in protecting and appreciating the world around us. So, I will say this, my mom, I don't know, it must have been the late 70s, early 80s. She was big into ceramics, and she painted some gnomes that are kind of like the Disney gnomes. They weren't quite true caricatures of those, but they're probably about a foot high and about maybe 9 or 10 inches in diameter. And she's had those at every place she's ever lived. She'll put them outside the front door sometimes in a foyer. It just depends on where she lives. But, yeah. So, you know, I guess, you know, it's not that unusual. So let me know in the comments. Do y'all have gnomes? Do you like gnomes? Do you like whimsical creatures? Do you like to read about that kind of stuff? I do like a good fantasy book. I like all things fae. Some years back, I got into a big paranormal reading thing where all the books that I read were about vampires. You know, kind of about when Twilight came out. I did enjoy the Twilight series. I don't think I've watched the movies. I think maybe I've seen one. Ellie just insists on telling you all about our neighborhood adventures. Okay, so back to Twilight. Did y'all like that kind of stuff? I read quite a diverse range of books. So I definitely go through streaks where, like I said, back then I was reading like anything vampire, fae, fantasy, werewolf, that kind of stuff. And then I read a lot of murder mysteries. I like psychological thrillers. I like a good cozy once in a while. But then I also read nonfiction books, horror, you know, what is it called? Historical fiction. I love books. I just do. I've been an avid reader my whole life. Now, right now, with selling the business and the channel and grandbaby and just my mom and life, I haven't really gotten to read as much as I'd like, but I do enjoy it. And I really struggle to read like on a Kindle. I've got, years ago I got a Kindle and I thought, oh, this is going to be the best thing. I won't have to haul books around when I'm on vacation. But guys, there is just nothing like holding an actual book in your hand. And I don't think it's just that I'm being age stubborn, because I embrace most new technologies and enjoy learning, and I certainly don't struggle with the technology of the Kindle or anything of that nature. There's just something not satisfying about turning the page on a Kindle, or not being able to just flick back a page or two. It's harder for me to go back and reread something on a Kindle. You would think it would be easier, but I don't know. I can't even say it's that. It's just different for me. Feel free to give me suggestions for good books in the comments. I would love to hear what you guys like to read, or if you have a favorite book. It's so hard for me to pick a favorite book because, like I said, a lot of my styles are so different. For a long time, it was A Fine Balance by, what's his last name? Minstry, I think is his last name. But I listened to that book on tape, which I enjoy reading books, or listening to books from other cultures and countries on tape, because then you hear the language. When you're trying to read foreign words, it can be a little difficult sometimes, but that's a really good book. But it's big. I don't know. The Tattoo Artist of Auschwitz was a good one. Water for Elephants is another one that pops into my head. I mean, I see, here's where I use that bright green. See, I like how it worked a little better. But yeah, I mean, I could go on for days. I read The Hot Zone. Absolutely love that book. That's on the Ebola virus. That's a true story. And I remember going, like, my ex and I were, I don't remember where we were going, but we were in the car, and at every stoplight I would turn on the light and read because I was so into that story. But yeah, you can see just by the books that I just mentioned, they're all very different. But yeah, I love to read. I love to learn. Just like today, reading that gnome stuff to you, I find that really interesting because, you know, it's one of those things that I don't know, I've personally never really sat down and thought about the history of gnomes or or anything like that, you know. And so to see that is pretty interesting to me. I don't know, even reading like from Wikipedia, it says it's a mythological creature and a diminutive spirit in Renaissance magic and alchemy, introduced by Paracelsus in the 16th century and widely adopted by authors, including those of modern fantasy. Typical small humanoids who live underground, gnome characteristics are reinterpreted to suit various storytellers. So I think, I don't know, I just think that's interesting. Now this is, I hope I'm not boring you guys with the gnome stuff, but, you know, I decided to click on Wikipedia. So it says the English word is attested from early 18th century. They are used in Alexander Pope's The Rape of the Lock. The creatures from this mock epic are small celestial creatures that were prudish women in their past lives. Like, that wasn't on my bingo card. And now spend all of eternity looking out for prudish women, in parallel to the guardian angels of Catholic belief. Other uses of the term gnome remain obscure until the early 19th century, when the Romanticist collections of fairy tales becomes most synonymous with the older word goblin. Oh. They are ingenious, friends of men, and easy to be commanded. They furnish the children of sages with as much money as they have need of, and never ask any other reward of their services other than the glory of being commanded. They are small and very handsome. Like, who knew? I didn't know any of this. Let's see. What else? So, in L. Frank Baum's Oz books, produced in the 1900 to 1920s, gnomes, spelled N-O-M-E-S, are the chief adversaries of the Oz people. They're ugly, hot-tempered, immoral, round-bodied creatures with spindly limbs, long beards, and wild hair, militant, collecting and protecting jewels and precious metals underground. Then there's the Tolkien gnomes, which are generally tall, beautiful, dark-haired, light-skinned, immortal, and wise. They're proud, violent, and unduly admire their own creations, particularly their gemstones. Many live in cities below ground or in secluded mountain fortresses. He uses gnomes to refer to both male and female. In C.S. Lewis's The Chronicles of Narnia, they live in the Underland. They are sometimes called Earthmen. They're more human-like gnomes and can have a wide variety of physical features and skin colors, where some of them are either standing at 1 foot or being taller than humans. They are used by slaves by the Lady of the Green Kirtle until her defeat, at which point they return to their true home in a much deeper and hotter underground of abysm. Let's see. J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter features gnomes are pests that inhabit the gardens of witches and wizards. They're small creatures with heads that look like tomatoes on small, stubby bodies. Gnomes are generally considered harmless, but mischievous and may bite with sharp teeth. In the books, it's stated that the Weasleys are lenient to gnomes and tolerate their presence, preferring to throw them out of the garden rather than the more extreme measures. In Terry Brooks' Shannara series, there are distinctive classes of gnomes. The gnomes are the smallest race, and they are considered to be tribal and warlike, and the one race that can most easily be subverted to an The one race that can be most easily subverted to an evil cause. Y'all knew I'd have to put in the blooper reel, right? Terry Pratchett's Discworld series features gnomes that were 6 inches in height, but quite strong, often inflicting pain upon anyone underestimating them. One prominent gnome became watchman in Ankh-Morpork as the force became more diversified under the command of Sam Vemmys, with Buggy Swains appearing in Jingo. I only read a couple of books out of that series, but I did enjoy it. But they can be a little more challenging to find. The Gnome is a song by Pink Floyd in their 1967 album, The Piper at the Gates of Dawn. It's about a gnome named Grimble Gromble. They're also featured in Dungeons and Dragons and in Warcraft. There's The Gnomemobile with Walt Disney. Also an animated movie called Gnomeo and Juliet. And Sherlock Gnomes, for those of you that love the puns. Well, now that we know more about gnomes than we ever thought we needed to, once again, when I'm doing these flower boxes and the stairs, I'm using a variety of colors just because I think it looks a little more whimsical. I really struggled to figure out what color to make those the little boxes and the flower box itself. So like the window shelf and then the flower box itself. I don't know. Like, I guess I probably should have done them maybe in the teal. That might have looked good. Now here with the grass, much like I did the stairs, I'm just putting in a little bit of color. Then I'm going to add a different color green to where it's not super even. Like, we just don't have one flat color of green. There's a little variance. I'm going in with the flowers and making their leaves dark at the base. Okay, don't do what I do. Don't color her braids. Those aren't flowers, Wendy. Those are her braids. So just adding variety of greens here. So tell me what you guys are most looking forward to this spring. Is it the gardening? Is it the weather? Do you like to go out and barbecue? Do you have picnics? Do you go out on a boat? What do you guys enjoy? Do you pretty much like only do indoor stuff, like coloring and whatnot? We do a little bit of everything. We do own a boat. We own a fishing boat. So it's not like what some people think of when they say boat, you know, like a yacht or anything like that. It's just, it's a fishing boat. And back in the way, we used to do a lot of fishing. Now, my husband still does do a fair amount of fishing. I don't do as much. You know, one of our big fishing trips we used to go on when I changed jobs years ago, and started my own business and such, I just couldn't take the same amount of time off or get the time off during the week that we used to go. So it became kind of a boys' trip. And so I still do some weekends where we go camping, we camp, we fish, we do some fun stuff like that, but not as much as we used to, for sure. This channel does keep me pretty busy. I love, love, love doing the channel. You guys are the best community, and I love chatting with you. I look forward to reading comments by you. I've really enjoyed being on Instagram because Instagram is a little more interactive, and so we can message each other or just do a little more commenting that isn't as public as commenting on YouTube videos. But that being said, I absolutely love reading your comments. It really drives me on to create more content. So I appreciate that, and I love when you guys share tidbits about yourself, because that's how I get to know you, and it feels more interactive. So as we finish up, I chose to, I'm going to make that chair red to kind of bring some of the red from the top of the page down into the bottom of the page. Plus, I wanted it more whimsical than brown, right? I mean, it would make sense that the chair was brown or white or something like that. But I really like the idea of it being more colorful, because that's what this page is. It's just a riot of color, right? It's an explosion of color, and I love it. I decided since he had a purple hat, he should probably have a purple shirt, and I'm assuming that these little things to the side of his beard, I'm assuming that's his shirt. But you tell me, maybe I colored it wrong. I don't know. But that's how I colored it anyway. So here I'm just going in and coloring in the part where the mushroom would peek through those rails. And just touching up the little tiny bits and bobs that I miss. And then I realized that I need a sharper pencil. Those are some tiny spindles. So, but yeah, that's why I chose to put red here, is just to balance out the red from the top of the page and to bring it into something in the bottom. So I used it for the center of the flowers, and then for the chair itself. And I like how that turned out. But yeah, if you would like to chat with me, I'm always available on Instagram. All of my handles are the same throughout social media. Pinterest, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. And then, of course, I have Jazzydoodledesigns.com, which is my website. And the website automatically uploads all my newest videos to it. And then if I put them in the categories, I have, I don't know, maybe 8 categories on the website. So like, for example, color alongs, that is a category. And if I put a video into that category on YouTube, it goes into that category on the website, which is fantastic. Now, some of the subsets, like I have a Teresa Goodridge subset of color along. So if you're looking for just stuff by her, you would be able to find it on YouTube under that, as well as in the broader category of color along. But on the website, there's a limited category. But the links to the Ko-fi shop are on there. There's a contact page for me. There's, like I said, all of the videos get posted on there. And then some of my favorite products are on there. I still haven't put in all of the links to coloring books, because I have a lot of coloring books and I don't want to just add like 10 books, because then, you know, you go there looking for a specific book and it won't be there. So when I do it, I want to kind of do it all. And so that's why I haven't yet. Whereas like my favorite pencils, my favorite blender, my favorite glitter products, all of that kind of stuff is on the website. So check me out there if you're interested in any of that. But yeah, Facebook and Instagram, though, have places where you can essentially kind of text me, for lack of a better word. But, you know, something a little easier than a full-blown email. And I'm very informal. You don't have to. I would love to hear from you. I really enjoyed doing this page, and I'll probably try these color pencils, especially since the Ava's Art London pencils that y'all know I really like, I haven't been able to find the bigger sets of them. And then the last time I looked, I wasn't even able to find the 72 set. So I'm not sure what's happening with them. I reached out to them, but they didn't get back to me. So that's a little annoying. But I'm looking for, I like Artisto pencils a lot. They're a good budget-friendly set. But I really enjoyed using this colors on this page. So I'm going to try them again and just see if maybe I didn't give them a fair shake of the tail. So what I'm doing here is I am deepening all of the shadows in my page, just to add a little more contrast using black. Now, this is actually called something different, something weird, but the key to doing this when you add your black is use a very light hand. You don't want it to read black when you're done. You want it to just look darker. And sometimes, especially if you use something like a Prisma, it can really add a little more than you were intending. And if that happens, then go back over it with your darkest. So like if you're doing this dark turquoise, use your darkest turquoise to go over it again. If you use a light enough hand, I have found I don't need to do that and it still looks fine. I am so sorry. Excuse my yawn. So, one thing I am going to talk about is everywhere on this page that you see the circles on the mushrooms, I go over them with that Fly Max paint. It's called Fly Max Paint Marker. It's 0.7 millimeters, and you use it just like a Posca. You shake it, it has a little ball in it, has a nib similar. You prime it, and then you go. And I thought it did a good job. Now, I use my Arctics acrylic marker for like the tips of the sunflowers and stuff, and just the little pops of color, you know, in his shoes. Or I think I put a little dot of white on each flower in the center. The little hearts on the hat on the bottom right, I did those in white. Up at the top, that hat is done with yellow, the Arctic's yellow brush tip. You could use a Posca pen, you could use colored pencils, but I did it with the Arctic's marker. But I wanted to talk about that book because, like I said before, I'm kind of an idiot, and what happened was, I think what happened is I had recorded that part separately, and I had already downloaded everything to the computer, and then I filmed the white because I had came back to do it at a later time. And so it was on my camera, and then when I came in to do the editing and stuff, or to film something else, I just reformatted my camera card because I looked on, you know, in my folder, and I had, you know, the 20 videos or whatever of this coloring. And so I thought, oh, I got it. So I reformatted my cards, and I forgot that that last little segment was recorded separately. So my sincerest apologies, because I hate doing that, because I want to show you guys everything. But hopefully I walked you through where I put the pops of color, and then if you look at the final page, you'll definitely be able to see, you know, where I put it. But I did want to address, you know, why you're not seeing it, and that big mushroom, that edge. Honestly, I think I probably need to go in with the darker red, and just, that's probably what you should use, I think, looking at the page now. But, you know, the other thing that I will address is that, you know, that sometimes I go over everything with a blender pencil. I like the Derwent blender pencil. I like the Lyra, what's it called? Lyra Rembrandt Splendor, I think is what it's called. The Prismacolor one, it really doesn't matter, any of those blender pencils, but I do like that one called the Brightener. I just think it does a really good job, but I don't always do it, and there really isn't a rhyme or reason to why I do it or don't do it. I just look at the page, and to me, when I look at this page, it's fun, it's vibrant, and I'm okay with a little bit of the quote-unquote tooth of the paper showing. But you certainly could do it. Just be careful when you blend, because this page has a lot of, like when I did the stairs, I did them in those that variety of color. This adds a little variance, right, when you visually look at it. When you use a blender pencil over something like that, it does what a blender is supposed to do. It blends it. It's going to change the look for you. Now, you might like that look. It might work out okay. So, like up on the mushroom, like on the cap of the mushroom, like the roof of the house, I think a blender pencil would work just fine. For the sky, it would probably work just fine. But those stairs, it's going to change the look. Same with the door. Now, not necessarily that it's going to change it to look bad. It's just going to change it. And so you have to decide. And I chose ultimately to keep it as is right now, tooth and all, and I'm okay with it. So that is a choice that you can make for yourself. Here I'm just adding a little pink to that flower, to the little, you know, the, oh, it's, what is it called? The pom-pom at the end of the flower. Okay, Wendy. That little flower that's on the end of this hat. For some reason, they don't have pom-poms. They have flowers. Okay, so at this point, we've pretty much finished up most of it. I am just touching up little areas where maybe I missed some things or want to tidy them up a little bit. I'm going to put some gray in the beards. I'm going to go over it with my white paint pen. I'm going to put the yellow paint pen up in the hat in the top right hand corner. You know, just adding those small little details. But I thank you as always for following me on the channel, commenting. I love, love, love your comments, and I appreciate all the kind words and all the support, because it definitely, it's just, it adds so much joy to my life. And I hope you all are staying safe. I hope you have good weather. And Ellie and I will see you on the next one. So until then, take care. Thank you for watching another video from Jazzydoodledesigns. If you enjoy adult coloring content, please consider subscribing. You can now find me on Instagram and Facebook as well. I welcome all comments and suggestions. Don't forget to like the video before you go. And until next time, take care.